What's going on, everyone? So I'm going to talk a lot about JJ Redick going forward between now and the next game because he's been very impressive right out the gate. But one of the things that I want to talk about that he talked about in the post-game press conference was he's going to put in a request for game-worn basketballs, right? That he wasn't aware that they were playing with brand new basketballs. And in the press conference, he says, you guys think I'm joking? Like, no, I'm manic about this, right? And he says, like, I'm dead serious. Like, I really want, like, we should be playing with game-worn basketballs. There's a different feel. Like, if you've ever actually picked up, like, there is. If you've ever played basketball, there's a big difference between a basketball that's worn, that, you know, you have the feel, you can get the grip, like, rather than like a fresh out of the box basketball that you got to kind of break in. It's just like anything else, like a mitt, right? You know, you got to kind of break in a mitt before it's ready to be in game, right? It's the same kind of concept for basketball, footballs, even all that stuff, right? Like even the NFL, right? They have different tests for different footballs, right? Deflategate was like a big thing, right? Like, so it's why like at the start of games, with the basketballs, they have multiple basketballs, and they say each team gets to get a feel for the basketball, and then they decide, okay, this is the ball, it's all play. I mean, you get that from high school level, college level, right? Like, it's part of the process. JJ Redick said he wasn't aware of that until he, you know, long rebound on a timeout, he like picked up the ball, and he was like, oh, this is weird. But those are the things that make him special, right? That's the difference. Like, him to recognize and see that, and one, as a shooter and player himself, recognizing that, like, oh, wait a minute, like, that could be a big difference in just the shot approach, right? Minnesota didn't shoot the ball well either, right? It's not like Minnesota shot the lights out and the Lakers didn't. Lakers shot terrible. Minnesota didn't shoot too great either, right? So could it have been the basketballs? But even if it's not, now, even if it's just a bad game, right? Lakers don't have this like great history of being a 3-point shooting team. Although last year, percentage-wise, they were very good. They were up at the top of the league, but attempts-wise, they weren't great. It's just those little differences, right? Like, again, I know some people think like, you know, oh, like you're just taking shots at Darvin Ham whenever, like you just won't let Darvin Ham go. But that's the difference. People keep asking, what's the difference between this team and last year's team, right? The coach that recognizes and sees and feels and can tell the difference of things, right? A coach that actually is running sets and actions and plays, that actually has real defensive designs for particular teams, is making adjustments, right? He talked about it. In the first half, we got 19 3-point attempts. We were on pace to get to where we wanted to be at 40 attempts. And then, guess what happened? The paint started to open up. So we started to attack the paint, made the adjustment on the fly. Do you believe for a second Darvin Ham would have recognized that they were using different basketballs than what they were supposed to be using? Right? Like, why did JJ Redick recognize that? Because he just played 3 years ago. Right? He knows what it feels like. He knows what the sense is. He understands as a shooter. He's one of the greatest shooters to ever play the game. You don't think he knows the difference, the feel, the way it affects your shooting? Right? Like, these are the little things. Like he said, I'm crazy about this. Right? That's what he is. You know, he's not just going to sit back and just go, oh, no, if there is a point, there is a problem, there is an issue, guess what? He's going to do everything he can to correct it because he wants the best opportunity for his team. He's not doing it for himself. He doesn't care. He's not out there shooting, right? Like, no, he's doing it because he knows what it does and the impact for his team. It gives his team the best opportunity. And it's not like they're the only ones that are going to be using those basketballs. It's not like the Lakers get every possession. They got to swat. Oh, okay, and a timeout. Minnesota's got the ball now, so we got to use this basketball. No, they're all going to use the same ball. So it's not something where, you know, like the NFL, like, again, like using the Deflategate thing for an example, right? So New England got to use their own footballs compared to the other team got to use their other football, right? Like, no, the basketball, you're just, because it's so back and forth, you're running the same thing, right? Like, so it's not like, oh, that gives the Lakers an unfair advantage. Oh, the Lakers get an advantage and no one else has. No, it's the same thing. It'll benefit other teams. But he's trusting his offensive execution. He's trusting his players, his shooters, to be able to better execute and deliver. that, hey, if we swap out these basketballs, if we make this correction, then that should improve the uptake. He's analytical. He's looking at it. He knows, but he's also a player. Like, that's the thing. And he's not a guy, like, he's a guy that's willing to change and adjust on the fly. Again, he had a game plan. And then he went, okay, the game has changed. And said, stop that. 1, we can't shoot. 2, we're using a brand new fresh ball out of the box. So that's not going to help us. We're not going to magically all of a sudden start correcting our shooting. And look, the Minnesota Timberwolves didn't really correct their shooting either. Right? Like, these are these little things that seem silly. It seems like nothing. Right? And it's like, and the Lakers won. Right? It's not like the Lakers lost, where it's like, oh, he's using an excuse, like, oh, here we go, another coach, another excuse. No, he's literally, we just won the game. But he's noticing that, like, hey, this gave us a disadvantage. It gave Minnesota a disadvantage also. I mean, who knows? Minnesota, they might have, who knows if they shot the lights out. It might have cost us the game if that happens. But JJ Redick recognizing that and going like, hey, that gives us an opportunity, right? Like, why? Like, we got great looks. We did. We got great quality looks. We just couldn't hit shots. And JJ Redick believes in this team. I mean, he's the one that's going through practices, it's going through shoot-arounds, it's going through X, Y, and Z, and he sees and understands and witnesses. You don't think he's not aware and conscious of, like, what this team is capable of and what they're not? You think he's delusional about what this team can do? I mean, a guy like D'Lo, right, like, shot poorly. This guy just set a Lakers record last year, right? Now again, I'm sure part of it was just bad shooting. Like, everyone shot bad. But again, like, both sides shot poorly. Not like Minnesota shot the lights out and the Lakers didn't. And it's just like, nah, like Lakers they just had a bad shooting night. Like, no, both sides were not great shooting the basketball. And so for JJ to recognize that and go like, hey, this needs to be corrected. Because again, they have a back-to-back coming up. They have everything. Like, they need to be in the best position possible. They can't afford to drop shots. And they're in the NBA, and they're in the Western Conference. They can't afford to be in that position. And you also want to know what you're getting into. Right? Like, because the Lakers are working out with game-worn basketballs. You're doing shoot-arounds. You're doing drills. You're getting reps up. You're getting, your muscle memory. All that stuff is predicated on how you're preparing. Right? Like, so if you go from this type of atmosphere to this type of atmosphere, there's variables that change. There's differences that matter. And those differences can be the difference between you winning and losing, or how many games you win or lose. Right? Like, but that's the difference with the coach. JJ Redick understands those things. He recognizes those things. He wants to correct those things. He understands that the little nuances, those are the differences. Right? Those little around the areas, the things that you think sound stupid or silly, like he even says, like, oh, you guys think I'm joking. Like, you guys are laughing. You guys think that this is like, it's like, who cares, right? Like, shoot, right? Like, no, there's a difference. And this is something that needs to be corrected. This is something that needs to be addressed. And I'm going to go down tomorrow morning. I'm going to wake up, well, today, now, but last night when he was talking about it, he says, I'm going to make sure that this gets corrected. I'm going to make sure that this gets changed because this is something that matters. The margins. There are these little things that could be the difference between you winning 55 games or you winning 45 games. Over an 82-game season, you get these small variable all of a sudden becomes a big one, right? Like, if that you miss that extra shot a game because of again, something as silly as like, not a game-worn basketball. Well, again, that shot could be, maybe it's not the difference this game, but could be next game. Maybe it's not next game. Could be the next game. And now, you lose by 3, and it's like, better to correct it now. Better to get it figured out and worked out now, so that we have, or if we need to make a correction, or we need to make an adjustment, or we need to change something, well, now we can. Okay, if the NBA is not going to do that, okay, then we need to start practicing with some non-worn basketballs, right? So you can kind of get a feel, so you can kind of get used to it, so you can kind of get acclimated to that change, right? Because again, if you're shooting in shoot around and the shoot around ball is game worn and you're just getting your shots up, boom, 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 and then you're going from that to immediately a fresh basketball right out the box, that's a change. That's a variable. That matters. That's the difference between you having a great night or a bad night. And it could have the same impact for that other team. But, hey, just like there's variables naturally throughout the course of a game, there's variable in that same instance, there's going to be those naturals, right? But it's those type of things is why I have so much faith and belief in JJ Redick. So many people are like, why do you, what's the difference? What's that? JJ Redick is the difference. You saw it in game 1. We had the exact same game play out in Denver last year and we got smoked in the first game of the season. It was the exact same game. The difference is JJ Redick made the changes, made the adjustments, and the Lakers won. He had a game plan, he had execution against one of the top teams in the Western Conference, top teams in the entire NBA. A team that was the best defense in the league last year. And the Lakers still hung up 110 points, given all the circumstances, poor shooting, all that, still dropped 110 points on them, and still executed and had the lead start to finish. Never relinquished it. That's the difference. JJ Redick is the difference. But anyway, as always, this is a discussion, and I pass a question on you. Let me know your thoughts and opinions down in the comments below. What do you think? How do you feel? What are your thoughts? Do you agree with my points? Do you disagree with my points? You kind of mixed on my points. Do you think that this matters? Do you think it doesn't? Right? Does it sound silly to you? You kind of you're like, why does it matter? Basketballs are basketballs. I'm telling you, it's not. If you play basketball, there's a big difference, right? Basketballs matter. There was difference between, what was TF1000, right? And then, the evolutions and stuff like that growing up, those were huge. I don't, there's all kinds of, crazy basketballs now, but I'm talking about, when I was growing up, right? There were differences in basketballs, right? And depending on which basketball, you shot better. You just did, naturally, right? So, again, there's these, the little things that you don't think matter really do make a big impact and go a long way. So it's just things to keep in mind. But anyway, as always, this is a discussion, so I pass a question to you. Let me know down in the comments below. That being said, if you haven't liked this video, hit that like button. Helps me a lot. As we enjoy these types of videos, and I truly appreciate it. Not subscribe channel, hit that subscribe button. Turn on the bell notifications. Appreciate y'all. See you in the next one. Thank you.